cool sound. Yeah. Is that it? No. Hold
Just
on,
some
maybe?
guns.
Nope.
You can make your own custom gun.
What is that? What? Hold on, Charles.
That's a hand cannon.
Get the flare gun.
James's grandma's here. Now's the time to start talking about when he thought I stole his wallet and then he called me Indian. Not even 5 seconds later.
Bro, that song's a banger.
Okay.
Hi, Mom. Bro, when was that? How's that? Oh, bro. Bro, I had a vibrator. Bro, Charles, bro, they got me. What are you doing? Should we wear my necklace? Adam with the man bun.
Hey, that's a good one.
I'm wearing the broker belt. Yeah, sticking out here.
Shut up, bro. Shut up.
Oh, that was the...
That's when Adam, or that's when we threw Austin out of it.
Oh, this is where it broke. Wait, no, what tier's that?
This is the one we just did it. We just went and did it.
Oh, so the time it
It's when
broke.
Jackson rated on
That was my first year.
or when my Jackson older.
What are we doing? Master in Ceremonies, as we celebrate James O'Hara for achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. Achieving the rank of Eagle Scout is a special event for Scouts and his troop, and we are all honored that you all could be here for the celebration. I'd also like to remind you that following the ceremony, there will be a reception at Camp Azteca. Now, will the color guards please come to the front to present the colors?
Audience, please rise for the presentation of the colors. Troop, attention. Color guard, attention. Color guard, forward march. Color guard, present the colors, troop hand salute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard, post the colors. Color guard, honor the colors. 2. Color guard, reform ranks. Color guard, dismiss. Audience at ease.
Now can I have Austin McDonald please approach the podium to give the invocation.
Please stand for the invocation. Lord God, we stand before you tonight in awe of your glory and in gratitude for all your blessings. We thank you for bringing us together as a family of Scouts, gathered to celebrate the accomplishments of James and attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. We ask your blessings on James, his family, and the Scouts, leaders, friends, and guests who are assembled here. Thank you.
Amen. Would James O'Hara please come forward? As we begin this Eagle Scout Court of Honor and examine the Trail to Eagle, it is fitting that we start with the fundamentals of scouting, the Scout Oath and Law. Would all present and past Scouts please rise and join me in the Scout Oath? On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law. To help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And now the Scout law. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. 2. You can be seated now. To earn the highest rank in scouting, a Scout must spend a great deal of time and effort. Therefore, the occasion that recognizes his accomplishments should be memorable. Tonight, we shall light the Eagle Trail as we recognize James' accomplishments.
And welcome. I am a new boy, a scout. I wear the fleur-de-lis, the symbol of scouting around the world. The free parts of the fleur-de-lis represent the free parts of the Scout Oath. I am beginning to learn and live.
I am a tenderfoot scout. To the fleur-de-lis on my badge, I have been added an eagle and a shield, representing my country, and 2 stars representing truth and knowledge.
I am a second-class scout. My badge is a scroll inscribed with the scout motto, "Be prepared." Suspended from the scroll is a knot, reminding me to do a good turn every day.
Like the thing of it.
I am a first-class scout. My badge shows the complete scout emblem, fleur-de-lis, eagle, shield, stars, and scroll, indicating that I have completed my basic scout training.
I am a Star Scout. Before me lie unlimited opportunities, just like the stars in the night sky. I can shine brightly as any of them.
I am a life scout, almost eagle. The heart on my badge shows I've taken scouting's lessons to heart. I am ready to spread my wings and fly.
While the rank of Life Scout is convent one and deserving to all that obtain it, the Eagle Trail does not end there. It leads on towards a higher summit. The pathway narrows and steepens considerably as it winds along an edge of personal achievements in a mountain pasture of troop accomplishments. Mile by mile, the trail becomes more trying. Many challenges must be conquered in these last miles. Only with the greatest persistence and courage can the scout gain the thrill of victory that comes while looking back down the trail from the very top of the Eagle Summit. All right, you guys can be seated. Jet Eagle. Over a few years, a scout undergoes a change from someone who struggles to memorize the scout oath and law to someone who lives by those words. From someone who struggles to set up a tent to someone who can camp many times. From someone who is led to someone who leads. But an even larger change is yet to come as the scout becomes an eagle. Becoming an Eagle Scout is not the end of the journey. It's merely the beginning. As the eagle, you have even greater responsibilities than before. To explain these responsibilities, Scoutmaster Mr. Bruce will come and give the Eagle charge.
stand over here, but not too close, because I don't want to put my mask on. You know, in Scouts, sometimes earning rank is like lighting candles. It's not always so easy. All right, James. The foremost responsibility of an Eagle Scout is to live with honor. To an Eagle Scout, honor is the foundation of all character, and he knows that a Scout is trustworthy is the first point of the Scout law for a good reason. An Eagle Scout lives honorably, not only because honor is important to him, but because of the vital significance of the example he sets for other Scouts. Living honorably reflects credit on his home, his church, his troop, and his community. May the white color of the Eagle badge remind you always to live with honor. The second obligation of an Eagle Scout is loyalty. A Scout is true to his family, Scout leaders, friends, school, and nation. His loyalty to his troop and brother Scouts makes him pitch in and carry his share of the load. All of these help to build the loyalty, which means devotion to community, to country, to one's own ideals, and to God. Let the blue of the Eagle badge, James, always inspire your loyalty. The third obligation of an Eagle Scout is to be courageous. Courage has always been a quality by which men measure themselves and others. To a Scout, bravery means not only the courage to face physical danger, but the determination to stand up for what is right. Trusting in God, with faith in his fellow man, he looks toward each day, seeking his share of the world's work to do. Let the red of the Eagle badge, James, remind you always of courage. The fourth obligation of an Eagle Scout is to be cheerful. To remind the Scout to always wear a smile, the red, white, and blue ribbon is attached to the second-class scroll, whose ends are turned up like a smile, to remind us to smile as we do our duty. The final responsibility of an Eagle Scout is service. The Scout extends a helping hand to those who still toil up Scouting's trail, just as others helped you climb to the Eagle. The performance of a daily good turn takes on new meaning as you enter the more adult life of continuing service to others. The Eagle stands as the protector of the weak and helpless. He aids and comforts the unfortunate and the oppressed. He upholds the rights of others while defending his own. He will always be prepared to put forth his best. James, you deserve much credit for having achieved Scouting's highest award, but wear your award with humility. Ever mindful that the Eagle Scout is looked up to as an example. May the Scout Oath and the Scout Law be your guide for tomorrow and onward. Thank you.
Will the candidates, mother and father, please come forward?
James, your parents have put forth, I know you put a lot of effort into earning Eagle, but your parents put forth a lot of effort too, particularly in encouraging you up the Eagle Trail. So we'd like your mom to take part in this ceremony for all the support you've given your son by pinning on his Eagle badge. She gets the hard part, I was going to say.
Okay, I'm going to have James finish this. It's almost as difficult as the candle lighting. Thank you.
Now, James, your father provided a lot of advice and guidance as you came up the trail. Let's let him help signify to the world that James O'Hara is an Eagle Scout just by visibly seeing you wear the neckerchief. Did I not do it tight enough?
No, it's good. I just somehow haven't got it in there right. Yeah. There's no rush. Right?
No, no.
Maybe Donna should try this one.
We need a lot of help.
How did that come out? It's complicated. That look good.
Just keep pushing.
Yeah. Somehow.
Hope we don't hear ripping.
Yeah. Kind of.
We should have rehearsed this part.
That's kind of a French flair to the whole thing, right?
As a show of appreciation for all the support your parents have given you, here are some pins you can pin on them. Now, finally, I get the pleasure of giving you this certificate. The Boy Scouts of America is proud to award the rank of Eagle Scout to Thomas James O'Hara. It's got a lot of official signatures on it, an emblem, and this cool card to keep in your wallet.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, it now gives me great pleasure to present to you our newest Eagle Scout here in Troop 407, James O'Hara.
I think you guys can see it. Next, we'll have the Eagle Promise. Mr. Bruce and all Eagle Scouts in the audience, please come forward.
All right, so let's go down the line and share with us your name and when you got your Eagle and what troop you were in. So this.
1989, Troop 407. Nick Billiard, let's see, 1994, Troop 228 in Richland, Washington.
Brian Robinette, 1997, Troop 406.
Ryan McDonald, October of 2019, and from Troop 407.
James O'Hara, March 25th, 2021.
Tim O'Hara, 1985, I think, Troop 455.
Lucas Montree, April 18th, 2019, Troop 407.
James, as the Court of Honor began tonight, you and your fellow scouts repeated the scout. Now you will stand beside your fellow Eagles and repeat a new oath, the Eagles' promise. Do the words you say are similar to what you've said many times before? Tonight they will mean more to you than they ever have. When you pledge yourself on your sacred honor, you will be sealing your oath as an Eagle Scout. So please, all make the scout sign and repeat after me. I reaffirm my allegiance.
I reaffirm my allegiance
To the three promises of the Scout Oath.
to the three promises of the Scout Oath.
I thoughtfully recognize and take upon myself
I thoughtfully recognize and take upon myself
the obligations and responsibilities of an Eagle Scout.
the obligations and responsibilities of an Eagle Scout.
On my honor, I will do my best
On my honor, I will do my best
to make my training an example.
to make my training an example.
My rank and my influence
My rank and my influence
count strongly for better scouting
count strongly for better scouting
and for better citizenship in my troop,
and for better citizenship in my troop,
in my community,
in my community,
in my contacts with other people.
in my contacts with other people.
To this, I pledge my sacred honor.
To this, I pledge my sacred honor.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mr. Robinette, can you please come to the podium to present the troop gift?
So, as the committee chair of the troop, and I'm Brian Robinette, and I've actually known James for a long time. My daughters were in preschool with him, and so it's really special for me to be able to do this, especially with his family being so helpful to us over the years. And having you in the troop and the O'Hara family in the troop has just been a pleasure, and I'm really excited and disappointed at the same time today. So James, here's a frame. You can put your certificate and a nice picture of yourself, and you can hang that on your wall, and always remember that you're an Eagle Scout.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Now James will present the mentor pins.
All right, may my dad come forward, along with Mr. Bruce, Mr. Hislop, and Mr. O'Donnell. Now, obviously, I only have one mentor pin, but I do have a gift for all four of you. For my dad, I have my mentor pin. For Mr. Bruce, my family and I would like to present you with a gift. We hope that will fill your bucket and have everything you need as you go on through your scouting career, as you continue to give back to the troop and the community. And then for Mr. Hislop and Mr. O'Donnell, my family and I would like to thank you for all your dedication and duty on the community trip. The canoe outings gave me lots of grit, as you would say, and helped me weather any storm. And can we have a please big round of applause for these great leaders? I'm sorry, I can't talk. All right.
All right. Well, can Mr. Bruce please come back up and do the Scoutmaster Minute?
All right, take your bets. Will he cry? Hey, Will. All right, I've been here a long time. I think next year it will be official that I will have been involved with Troop 407 longer than any scout in the troop has been alive. So I've got to see a lot of leaders in our troop come and go, and each one brings their own skill set, their own strengths and weaknesses. Some of them, I've had a few over the years that were excellent communicators. Oh my gosh, during that 6-month period, everyone in the troop had their finger on the pulse of exactly what was happening and when it was going to happen. I had some SPLs that were really good at organizing large, complex things with lots of moving parts, which is what a troop is. And again, lots of strengths and weaknesses. Every now and then you get some scouts who excel in an area that is today known as emotional intelligence. And a part of emotional intelligence is empathy. And James, when dealing with younger scouts, really excels at empathy and convinces them that he honestly has a vested interest in the quality of their scouting experience. Case in point, the Bruce Mobile. Everyone knows the Bruce Mobile. It's this rather unattractive Toyota Sienna that hasn't been washed in maybe a decade or so. And it's not a great car, but whenever we line up to run to cars, when we're on an outing, I stand there with my 5 fingers up of my available seats, and scouts just sort of stumble over themselves trying to get to my car as I count down to 0. Why do they want to come to my car? I have no idea. The Bruce Mobile has no amenities. There's no entertainment system. You can't push your music from your device into the sound system. You can only share your music in that car if you bring a CD or a cassette tape. And also the Bruce Mobile often smells odd. Smells oddly like the last outing we've been on. So it's not the amenities that people want to go into the Bruce Mobile. And I bet it's not because I'm the one driving it. If you're in the car with me, expect to get those awkward questions like, how come you're not Life Scout yet? What's up with that? Now, maybe it's because the SPL always has to ride the Bruce Mobile and has the misfortune of having to sit in the front passenger seat. On long trips, the Scoutmaster just starts peppering the poor SPL with questions. What's the plan for this outing? What's the agenda? When we get there, what are you going to do and when are you going to do it? And if it's a really long trip, he starts going on and on about, well, what are we doing for next month? And hey, what's happening this summer? Maybe they enjoy watching the SPL squirm as the Scoutmaster quizzes them on the trip. So I'm not sure why they all stumble over themselves to get into the car, but sometimes as I'm counting down, all the older scouts are jumping into my car, but every now and then a younger scout hops in. And they're like, okay, you made it here before the other older scouts, so I guess you win. But of course, being a younger scout, they're at a lower priority, and they're smaller, so they go into the back of the car. And as usual, in the Bruce Mobile, the conversation turns to older scout topics, classmates, school, and cars. And the younger scouts usually just sits in the back seat and just soaks it all in. Oh man, this is so cool. The older scouts are so cool. Now, generally, the younger scouts just don't participate at all. They just sit there and listen to the conversations. But the SPL, who's always in the front seat, they have to have the conversations like this all the time. They're stuck in the front seat, and they're always having to turn their neck, pointing to the back. And I remember time and again, whenever there would be a younger scout in the car and the conversation was going on, James would say, "Hey, Billy, in the back, what do you think about that?" And usually the younger scout would respond in one of two ways. Sometimes they'd just sit there frozen, not sure what to say in the presence of the older scouts, but most of the time they enjoyed the opportunity to join the conversation. James was always inviting younger scouts into the conversation or into the activity and making them feel a part of the experience. Give me a second. This last year we had the fire outing at Lions Camp. And after a day of rousing activities of teaching younger scouts how to build fires and use axes and knives and saws, it was time for everyone to go to bed. So James was off herding the scouts off to their Adirondacks or tents. And Liam came by the adult area and told me that there was a younger scout in the next camp who was really upset and crying and talking about killing himself. Oh. I thanked Liam for letting me know, and I went over to that campsite, and apparently someone had told James the same thing, and we both arrived at that campsite at the same time. Now I got the first question off, the easy one. So what's the problem? And the scout explained that earlier in the day, another scout in the troop had done an unscout-like thing, had walked through the campsite where he was sitting and said, "Hey, Fatso, ha, made you look." Now, that in and of itself is not a major offense, although it was unscout-like behavior. But it seemed like it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And this kid, hardly able to speak because he was so upset, just went down this long list of problems in his life, particularly that had been growing larger and larger throughout the pandemic. There was this other program that he was involved with that really spoke to him, and he enjoyed doing this activity. And they had their big end-of-the-year celebration, but they had to announce that because of the pandemic, all of their funding had dried up, and they were just going to have to stop the program. And he was really upset about that. He was also upset about a lot of little things that when you get older, you realize it's just not a big deal. But James listened to him and talked to them and did not discount any of those little things because they were really big things to this scout. And he sat there, and I did not participate very much because I was like a deer in headlights, like, what in the heck are we going to do? But James just took over and really did an excellent job and just shared with them, maybe here's some strategies to make your life better in these various problems that you have. And then James eventually steered the conversation to the good news that middle school stinks. Let's just face it. You are immature and you have a hard time learning how to deal with all this stuff, and everyone that you're basically in prison with is also immature and they don't know how to deal with this stuff, and it's just like Lord of the Flies, and everyone treats each other terribly. But when you get to high school, it's not perfect, but it is so much better. And so James was telling him about all these things that are going to be better as his life goes on. And again, I just would occasionally add a little thing, but this was all being handled by James. Now, eventually, James started steering the topic to less weighty things. And we sat there for a good long time, all three of us, talking about movies and TV and video games. And this young scout, who earlier could not get a word out because he was so upset, was just actually enjoying the conversation and was having a good time. Now, eventually James said, well, all good things have to come to an end, and it's getting awfully late. So why don't we go off to bed, and we could talk more about this later. And if you ever feel like you need to talk about something like this again, just let me know, and you can talk with me about it. I was totally amazed by that interaction. So as you go through Scouts and as you go through life, guys, each of you will bring your own strengths and weaknesses to leadership here in Troop 407. But I want you to actively bring empathy into your skill set. We all like to live life by the golden rules. Treat others like you would like them to treat you. But maybe you should be more like James and put your feet in someone else's shoes and treat them the way they would like to be treated. Doing that will convince the younger Scouts that you are honestly interested in them having a good scouting experience. And it will convince them to let you be their leader. Be like James. Thank you. Well,
Thank you. Now we'd like to open the stage to the audience to share about James or a story about him. What? Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Now a few words from James O'Hara.
All right. Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate you all being here. I wouldn't be here without you. Obviously, I thank Mr. O'Donnell, Mr. Bruce, and of course my parents. But I would like to thank you all. I mean, honestly, you all supported me all the way with your support network. I mean, all the adults who volunteered countless hours, and also all the scouts who were there, helped me lead and grow as a leader. I couldn't have done without you. I also like to thank Lucas for being here, and of course William. He wasn't here, but his mom is. And I'd like to thank them all for, obviously those older scouts are the people who I look up to when I was a younger scout. They helped teach me the skills I needed to know. And of course, they helped me rank up and also grow as a person. And of course now I'm teaching, well, I did until I aged out, but I taught their skills to the younger scouts over here. Of course, all their hours can't be understated. I'd also like to thank my patrol. Of course, there's Ryan, who's emceeing for me tonight, which I very much appreciate. There's Adam over there in the back, which I thank you for being here. And of course, all my patrol who are still actually in scouting, like Charles and Kyle. You all keep me motivated in scouts, and we've had a lot of good memories together. Whether it was on a canoe outing, summer camp, or any car activity, I had a good time with y'all. I really grew a lot through scouting. Obviously, when scouting, you come in when you're like 11 or 10, or maybe even 12. And of course, you change, obviously in height, but also in maturity. And most of the time, I've learned it was through the hard way. I remember Charles and I went canoe outing. I think it was our second year. We put the tent fly inside out. And so we had a big funnel coming into us and turning our tent into a big pool. And that was a lot of fun. And then, I don't know, I think we tried making a tent city where we had the rainfly, so the zipper was right on top. So we could stick our heads up top, which was pretty neat, until it started raining, and we crammed all 5 of us into a 2-man tent. But the biggest thing I realized about scouting is actually giving. Of course, when you're a younger scout, it's all about you. You're trying to learn all the skills you need to grow and actually rank up. Though, as you kind of get older, maybe around your 3rd or 4th year, when Mr. Reese has to talk with you, you kind of realize, maybe it's not about me. Maybe it's about giving back. Obviously, we do scouting for food, we do spaghetti dinner and other things, but really, it's all about giving. And that's one of the biggest things that I realized through scouting. It's about maturity, really. And that's something that you can learn through ranks, of course, but mainly through living scout law. Now, I know that may sound very difficult and maybe even impossible, but trust me, you can do it. I do it every day, well, at least try to. I fail quite often, though. I remember my dad coming in to me one day. I was sitting on the couch, playing video games, eating a cake, and my dad said, I don't remember eating cake beyond scout law. Because, of course, my mom at the time was packing the car for a trip, and here I was eating cake on the couch. But I always do my best to incorporate in everything I do. And it really helps you pay more attention to what's going on around you. It makes you more conscious of your decisions and helps you from being oblivious, as Mr. Reese would say. And that's something I would recommend for everyone, whether you're in Scouts or out of Scouts or whatever. I just try to learn from that. Thank you all for being here, and I think we're going to have open mic in a minute. Yeah, but thank you. Stay golden, keep fighting the good fight, and thank you.
All right, now, thank you, James. We'll be having an open stage to the audience to share about James or a story about him that you'd like to tell. We invite you to the stage to do the time so. So, James, come over here. All right. So anybody can come up. We're going to come up right now. Start. Okay. All right.
So I got a lot of stories about James. I might be up here a couple times. We'll see let's see who says what. First thing I'd like to talk about is Mr. Bruce was talking earlier about the Bruce Mobile and how the SPL's got to sit in the front. So this was coming back from summer camp this summer. James was SPL at summer camp. He did a great job. He made that outing really successful, so thanks for that. But on the way back, we were in the car, and James was a little sleepy. He's had a long week. He's had a long week being in charge and doing his job. So he's sleeping in the car, and me and Ryan were in the back, and we got red vines. We're just eating some red vines, and we had to start like poking at James over the seat, like poking his ear with them. There's a video of this. Maybe we get this on the PowerPoint, but he wakes up. And then he just like he's just kind of in this dazed state, and then he looks and he just grabs the red vine so violently, and then he was so upset about this red vine. He's like, and if you know James, he's got this face that he does in our patrol. We call it James face, where it kind of looks something like this. He goes, and he goes, "Come on, man," and. So the James face has been a little staple in our patrol, but yeah, I just thought it was a little funny story to share, but now I'm dropping on the papers. Anyways, yeah, I might be up here again. We'll see. Thank you.
Let's think. I've known James since first grade, or 12th grade, so about 11 years now I've known James, and we've seen a lot and experienced a lot. Sorry, give me a second. So let's think. So we were our Cub Scouts, Mama Me camp, like our very first like camping we've ever done that was like within Scouts. So we had lots of fun, lots of big memories there, but one big memory we had was we were building a fort, like off the edge of the trail. It was like this, like falling over stump. We had all these sticks. We were having so much fun building this, and a group of Scouts decided to come over and say, "Oh, can we play on it too?" And so we're playing on it. And me and Jason were building this, and the Scouts are jumping all over it, and the Scout just jumps weird on it and just falls back and lands on his back, and the next thing I remember is a guy with a stretcher coming out, and he's in the stretcher, and it was really traumatic, but like it was so much fun before all that time, and then that was like the first like vivid memory of, I guess, scouting with James would be my very first vivid memory. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So I'm Lucas. I aged out of the troop a couple years ago. I was an older scout when James was a younger scout, and it's pretty interesting to see him grow up. When he was a younger scout, things would go wrong in his troop, or his patrol when they were doing games or stuff, and he would just keep going when things would go wrong, like eat the pancake off the ground. even if it wasn't fully cooked, and eat pine needles. That was great. That was really fun. I also found out that I was related to James during Scouts. He shows up at a meeting after an outing and calls me cuz. And I'm like, what's going on, man? So he explains that he went to a family gathering and my aunt was there, and he recognized my last name for some reason, which I didn't think I was that big of a influence in Scouts, but apparently he knows my last name, so that's a little scary. And, you know, he always told me he was going to do water polo, too, but What did you do instead of water polo, James? Dang. All right. Well, it's been great, man. It's been really great.
Okay, so it was on our way to summer camp this year, and there were unusually large amount of Broncos out on the road. And James, every time we pass a Bronco or he would see one, oh guys, look, there's a Bronco, there's a Bronco. The whole time on the way to summer camp. Wait. Yeah, and like, here's the thing, he owns a Bronco too. Yeah. Yeah. It's falling off. It's falling.
All right, so everyone here basically knows James, and if you know James, you know he's got a lot of unique traits. For example, on our most recent canoe outing, we were not allowed to start cooking dinner until 5 o'clock, and we're not allowed to eat from 2 to 5 because it's happy hour, which is funny the first day, but then when it's the 5th day and you're tired and hungry, and he says it's happy hour for like the 18th time, you just want to put his head underwater for a couple minutes, you know? I also remember our first year. This is a bit of a disgusting one. James would make this meal for us that was canned chicken, canned corn, rice, water, and no seasoning. And obviously no one wants to eat that, except for Mr. O'Hara over here, who would sit there with his little bowl of whatever that is. There's probably like a disease festering in the water. And he's like, oh guys, why don't you want to eat dinner? Very unique individual, that's all I have to say.
All right, so Mr. O'Hara, what I will say is first and last igloo outing I ever went to. It was, what year? I can't recall. But what happened was me and James were tasked with building an igloo, and that was fun. Snow was also fun, so snowballs were cool, you know, just wrestling, whatever. As it got a little bit later in the day, I was kind of uh-oh, we don't have an igloo. We had kind of I'd call it like a hollow wall, kind of. We had like a fort. But anyways, so luckily we were prepared for this, and there was a couple tents. Unfortunately, these tents were not meant for snow. So me and James had to spend the night in what I would consider, I think it was an all-season tent, but it was a summer tent. So it was below freezing. Snow maybe snowed a couple feet overnight at least. And we had to spend the night in that thing. James, luckily, had the proper sleeping bag. I, on the other hand, did not. So, lesson learned. I woke James up, or at least I think I woke James up, probably well over 10 times that night, because I was crying and whining and couldn't go to sleep, absolutely freezing my butt off. But luckily, James did not get mad at me and kept telling me, it's going to be okay. So, I thought, we were really young at the time, and that was really cool, and that was kind of a traumatic-ish experience I had with Mr. O'Hara here, and it really kind of James is probably one of, if not the most humble person I know, so thanks for all the fun times.
I got another one. All right, so canoe outing our first year. That was the big storm one where lots of things didn't go right, I guess you could say. Well, I think we were at Sterling Point. It was our third night in. Me and James were like, let's build a fort, and out of tarp. So we were building our fort out of tarp. So we're like this great fort. We're going to bed. And we wake up about 5 before 7 o'clock. So early for me at the time. I was like an 8th grader. But you wake up and our tarps are up like in the sky. Like it's like being held on by like probably 25-pound nylon cord that should not be holding everything up. And it's flopping in the air. It's starting to rain on us too, and we're like, what do we do, kind of a thing. And like the rain's going sideways, and it's not any fun. So we end up huddling up together under like a tarp that we like grabbed from the rope, and like we like huddled on there until I think Mr. O'Donnell came over and was like, what are you guys doing, or like something like that, like making fun of us because we looked really weird, and it was a very fun moment. And then another that year, probably one of the funniest things that I remember was we went to bed at our last night. We were at not Plum Point, but a beach near Plum Point, and we were sleeping and we went to bed, and halfway through the night, Mr. O'Donnell wakes up James saying, what is it? Are you a submarine? And he was like, how close are you to the water? He's very close to the water, and it was like really funny because he wakes up because he comes to move next to me, and you can't be really quiet on sand and then a tarp moving with you too, and it wakes me up, and I see him, and he's like, yeah, Mr. O'Donnell woke me up and saying I was going to be a submarine, and yeah. I got to say is thank you for all the great memories, and I'm glad to call you a friend.
All right, I did warn you I'd be up here again. Okay, so I got a couple, but I'll say them all at once so I don't have to keep coming up here. So this was going to Philmont. James didn't come with us to Philmont this year because he had other obligations. But on the bus ride to Philmont, we had a Spotify group going. So if you don't know what Spotify, you can have like multiple people listening to the same thing on their own phone. So, and we're putting the link to this in the group chat that we have with a bunch of older scouts and everyone who's at Philmont. So we just had that because the people on the bus, we were just all listening to the same thing. James sees this group chat, or James sees the link in the group chat, and so we don't know he's doing this, but he joins the group chat, and then he's the most creative Rickroll I've ever seen. He just he plays the song. So all of us are sitting, we're in the bus, we got our headphones on, and we all just look around at each other and start dying laughing. Me in particular, because it's just been this long-running joke in our patrol. It's like, can you make Kyle cry laughing? So yes, James succeeded. On the floor of the bus, dying laughing, because he's just rickrolled me from across the country. So there was that. Another thing that I can think of with James is would have been Camp Parsons, our second year. So there's a wasp nest behind one of the tents that we were at, and we were playing Risk in this tent, and someone notices it, and James comes up with the bright idea to get a squirt gun and start squirt gunning this wasp nest. So it got removed by the camp staff later. But we're all freaking out because he's like, oh, you're going to wake them up because he's starting with the squirt gun. Another thing that got mentioned earlier is Tent City. This happened our first year. This was like our second outing, it was pioneering outing. It would have been one of our first outings. But it was us 5 Terminators who are here, me, James, Ryan, Adam, and Charles. We had 2 two-man tents because, we're small, so we can fit 3 in one of them. And we have not been, trained, I blame Lucas, on where to set up tents. And so we set up on a hill, and this is raining. It's September, so it's raining, we're on a hill, and we don't know how to put our rain flies up correctly. So, and we had the bright idea of Tent City. So we connected our rain flies, and we're like, cool, we'll have our unzipped open, and we're just and we have our big old tent pins, and we're all in the same tent. This ends catastrophically. It starts raining, it starts pouring, water's flooding one of the tents, and so everyone starts coming over into the tent I'm in. I forget who was in what tent, but James was one of the first ones. Or were you in my tent, or were you in the other tent? You was in the other tent. So I think, were you the first or last one to jump ship? You were the first one. He recognized immediately this was not good. So he came over. He's like, guys, can I please come in your tent? We were a little apprehensive at first. I think it was me and Ryan. We were in the other tent. And we were a little apprehensive. We were like, no, you're in the other tent. But we let him in. A little while later, Adam says, guys, can I come in the tent? So then we let him in. Charles is the last one in the tent. He's convinced himself that he's going to stay there the whole night. He's huddled. There's just a little island left in the tent, and that's not water. He's huddled in there. And he doesn't even ask. He just gets in the tent. So it's just a very good patrol bonding experience with James and the rest of my patrol. Yeah, that's a fond memory. And the last thing I'll talk about, promise the last one. This is canoe trip. The only one I went on. We were at Keller's Ferry, and everyone was setting up their hammocks because there's lots of good places to set up hammocks there. And James didn't have a hammock, and he was a little envious of everyone that did. So he constructed his own hammock underneath mine out of a tarp and rope. So he's underneath me, like his face is so close to my butt. And my hammock had a shoddy job setting up. Like Alajon helped me set that up, and that was a little shoddy. It was actually Austin's hammock, but it's a story for a different time. But James's tarp hammock is just so low to the ground and so close to me. It's just barely hanging off the ground. And I just start hearing this crack, and then it falls. And so he's just sitting, and then he just sits there for the rest of the night. He's just laying on the ground on this tarp, just staring up at me, I imagine. But so yeah, his tarp ingenuity. So yeah, James O'Hara, everyone.
I just recently remembered a good story about Meriwether and the time that me and James were both waiters for lunch. Or no, it was breakfast, right? Yeah, it was breakfast. So me and James, we were setting up the table. We were getting all the utensils and all the food. And so we went and got all the food and brought it back. And then they called us up to bring out a tub of yogurt for our table. And so James goes and gets the yogurt while I'm finishing up some of the stuff at the table. And James comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Timmy, look." He starts squeezing the yogurt, and it pops all over my uniform. And this was the third or the fourth day, so I still had to wear that uniform at least 2 more times. And it still has a huge stain right here. It's in my closet with just yogurt all over it. That was just a great time.
So Austin already mentioned this. What is it with Broncos? Oh my gosh, he's like the annoying bird watcher when it comes to Broncos, and you're on a trip. Oh, there's a so-and-so 1980 something Bronco with the so-and-so package. And all right, so all you scouts who are life rank and lower, I want to put you on notice. Here are the requirements to earn your rank of Eagle. A bunch of merit badges, active in the troop for 6 months, leadership position for 6 months, do an Eagle project, and fill out the application and any associated paperwork. In the application, on requirement 6, it says you have to write an essay. For some reason, the scouts seem to miss this. And the worst case I ever had was, what was his name? The younger Phillips guy. The Phillips brothers. It was Josh Phillips. It was the night before his 18th birthday. And I was at his house doing an Eagle Scout rescue. And we're going through the paperwork, and I say, okay, now let me see your essay. And his response was, what is it? Luckily, I had my work laptop in the car. I went to his living room and did some work while he wrote an essay. We weren't done with that Eagle Scout. The next worst one was by B. Phillips. Let me see your essay. It says, I'm going to win the Nobel Prize of Physics. Really? Can you fill that out a little more? Maybe how what you learn in scouting is going to help you to achieve that. Just one sentence. And then the next worst experience with that essay was with Kane Anderson. He had like this little half paragraph. That's not quite enough. Neither one of these guys, well, how many letters does it have? I said, well, let's think of what else you could write about. How has your scouting experience going to help you achieve this goal? Or how has the oath of the law helped you outside of scouting? It's like a whole bunch of other stuff you can fold in. So I offer one suggestion. You grab a laptop, type in like 2 more sentences, turn around and say, is that enough? This and this. You grab the laptop, add 2 more sentences, is that enough? You're trying to say, no. I want you to write this essay. You'll know when it's enough, and email it to me, and then we'll get together. I'll do the science application. Now, sometimes you get essays that are just loaded up with useless words just to increase the word count. So I get this essay from James. Wow, this is a long one. Single space. So, and I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of blue in this. But I'm reading. Oh my gosh, this is the best essay I've ever seen. Get an opportunity to read it. You should. You never get a copy. And unfortunately for all you guys, that is the bar you will have. So you can thank this guy.
I'm going to go in a slightly different direction, and Charles, I might have to apologize to you for that rice dish. I think that was a recipe that I gave James. Anyway, as James said, I wanted to thank everyone for coming here this afternoon, and special thanks for the adults that have dedicated so much time and energy to the troop over the years. There's no doubt that James could not have achieved the rank of Eagle without everyone's help. But of course, one person stands out for special recognition. We all know that Mr. Bruce commits a tremendous amount of time to this troop. That alone is quite extraordinary. However, there's something else important about Mr. Bruce. which we may not always appreciate. It's his ability to show patience and tolerance in the face of absolute chaos. On my first troop outing, I became concerned. As I walked around the camp, there seemed to be equipment strewn everywhere. 2 nylon sleeping bags sat next to a roaring fire, and a dome tent was set up with only half the number of poles required. But worst of all, Mr. Bruce seemed strangely calm about it all. In fact, he seemed far more interested in discussing his walk as he prepared a gourmet stir-fried dinner for us parents. But then I realized the magic. The Scouts were being allowed to gain experience through trial and error. And by experience, I mean being allowed to make mistakes. It's not something we see as much anymore, as it's difficult to watch as a parent. For instance, as an adult, it's tempting to jump in and take over when a grub master suggests eating only raw hot dogs for a weekend trip, or when a scout argues that jeans are, in fact, the proper outer shell for an igloo outing, or when an SBL thinks he can organize a weekend overnight without actually contacting anybody. I don't know how Mr. Bruce remains so patient when so many of his helpful suggestions are so often ignored. But by not overcorrecting, he allows Scouts to build experience. And the lessons learned are so much more powerful because of it. So I want to thank Mr. Bruce, not only for the extreme devotion that he has shown the troop over the years, but for also creating a safe environment for James and the rest of the Scouts to try new things, make mistakes, and learn from them. While they may not yet truly appreciate it, we know that each Scout here is better prepared for the future because of you. So thank you.
You gotta put that back. You gotta put that back. All right. With that, I'd like to now call the color guard up for retiring the colors. Again, there will be a reception at Kent Azteca. Also, there are some trail mix treats at the table as you go. Please take one as a gift for coming to celebrate James' Trail to Eagle.
Will the audience please rise and remove all non-scouting hats for the retiring of the colors. Color guard, attention. Color guard, honor the colors. Scout hand salute. 2, color guard, retrieve the colors. Color guards, reform ranks. Color guard, dismiss. Audience at ease.
All right, thank you all for coming today. Please join us at the reception. Adults, guests, friends, and family will go first. After Scouts from the troop will follow. Can you please get a big round of applause again for James attaining the rank of Eagle. One of my papers.
One of mine somewhere.
One right here. That's yours.